Hello everyone, Edain here and welcome back to the Edain Mod. Today we're doing another ranking video and this time we're doing unique faction mechanics. So you may be wondering what I'm considering to be a unique faction mechanic. What I'm considering to be a unique faction mechanic is something that is specific to only one faction, that only one faction can do. Not like any other faction can do. Gondor and Arnor I'm giving an exception for because Arnor doesn't really have anything unique because it's quite a lot of copy-paste things that are now in Laundress. So let's begin and let's see what I think of each one. I'll be ranking them all from A to D. The unique faction mechanic of Gondor is the fiefdom mechanic. So everything that is classified as a fiefdom comes from the signal fire and the border stronghold and gets buffed by the hero Imrahil. But most importantly is the fact that all signal fire units are technically free. If you buy them from the errand rider, you only have to pay 400 for the signal fire, and then you just have to wait around to actually get every individual unit, or all of them all at once. And there's also a power in the power tree that allows you to improve those signal fire units. But also, as I mentioned, Imrahil buffs all fiefdoms in some regard from his tactics ability. And also there's the Knights and Men of Dol Amroth that come from Border Stronghold. They're also classed as fiefdoms. I'm going to include the Aphelion Rangers as a fiefdom, but they're not classified as a fiefdom unit for Imrahil's buff, purely because they can also their unique thing is that they can be spawned from a tier 3 ranger tent, which starts off as just a basic resource structure, but then evolves into becoming a military structure as well. So all in all, I'd say this is a C tier unique mechanic. It's not very obvious that this is supposed to be unique, but the signal fire has been through a lot of changes and it has definitely improved. It's not one of the best mechanics, mind you. You can go the entire game without using it, which is why I'm not calling it incredibly unique, and it's why it's only getting the C tier. Theoden and the Peasantry are the unique mechanic of Rohan, and although they are completely different unique mechanics, they do have some convergence, with Theoden as his corrupt form can turn the peasants into traitors, which makes them slightly stronger than the peasants would be with draft, but obviously it gives them a short amount of time to live. But peasants in general also are unique because they start off being quite weak, quite low armoured, but you can give them 2 different powers to give them some nice armour and swords and shields and make them more reliable in combat, and actually make them more reliable than other faction units at their starting tier. Plus they get an extra bonus from flour mills, so the buildings that make them also give them even bigger buffs, making these units quite powerful at defending your base if you need some base defenders. It's not quite as powerful as, say, Gondor's fiefdom mechanic, since this is just your basic tier units. And also, once Theoden's cured, he becomes really powerful. He's your faction leader. Having a faction leader come out really early is quite beneficial if you can get the ball rolling. But all in all, I'd say this is a B tier unique mechanic. Well, the 2 unique mechanics, just because they are really powerful. They can get your early game going in the right direction that Rohan wants, and that is to be in a very aggressive, powerful playstyle where you can gain an advantage over almost every enemy. If it wasn't obvious what Lothronas' unique mechanic is, just look on the screen. It's their base. They have 5 structures on a fortress map and 4 on a camp start map, and you only get 4 different buildings you can build on your map. And I think it's a really good mechanic. It's so unique that it's never been actually done before with any faction. It's just you have to be careful because you only have one recruitment structure, and that is the Citadel. You can only recruit everything from here. Your heroes are limited from where you can recruit them if you don't build every single building. If you choose to go without the Border Stronghold, you can't get Haldir. If you go without the Gladfrim Quarters, you can't get Celeborn. If you don't have the Sanctuary, you can't get Galadriel. And if you don't have the Forge, you're not going to get any of your important upgrades. So you do need everything. But you can get away with having less if you prioritise and getting the discounts first. But obviously, as I've already said, you get very limited amounts. So you've got to be very careful with what you do. If you get everything, you're bound to have a basic playstyle, but if you choose to go a bit more in the discount section, with the Border Stronghold getting you cheaper Lorien units, or foregoing that and going straight into Galatharim Warriors, which is, it is a playstyle, it gives you so much versatility in what you can do, and obviously you've got more choices with the Lorien Outpost if you want to go for a specific discount gameplay, or you can go for Mirkwood if you want to have even more roster utility. You just get so much choice with Lothlorien, and I definitely say this unique mechanic, although it's a bit tricky to learn, once you've learned it, it is definitely an A tier unique mechanic. It just gives the factions so much flavour and versatility that some factions do struggle with, because they just have all the build plots and you have to make sure you build enough resources, enough economy, enough resources, enough military, any potential side buildings like a well or a hero statue. Lothronas has it all more easily compact for players that want to learn this playstyle. And I say Lothlorien is probably one of the best noob-friendly factions to learn if you have no prior experience in Battle for Middle-earth. For Laundress, their unique mechanic is the library, and more importantly, what comes when you get the library, you get Erister's supervision. You can put Erister into any of the buildings you can see in front of you, and they each give a different thing. For the green pasture and your barracks and workshop, it gives you increased recruitment speed for your units, and it allows you to get a special upgrade for the units you can recruit from that building. Obviously, for the banner carriers, you can also get for the Lancers, but you can only get the horse shields for the Lancers, and then that allows you to get the Wind Riders. In your Blacksmith, your Eregion Forgers, it allows you to get your upgrades. In the Author's Hall is actually just another way of getting even better economy. That 28 would become 56 if you were to put him in there. And then in the library, it increases the speed of recruiting Lore Masters and also halves their cost. So if you want to go Lore Master build, that's what you can do as well. But also from the library, you have your upgrades are quite split up compared to other factions. You've got a choice of improving your weapon upgrades and the blacksmith level. You can improve your military building level. You can improve your Lore Masters and the Author's Hall level, or improve your outside settlements, their levels, improve their defenses for Hobbit farms, and then also improve the power of Miravor by 50%, which is quite noticeable when you use it as often as I do. So you're constantly playing a little game of have Erister visit certain areas of your base where you want the best value, and it is very interactive. You're not forced to use it constantly. You can just keep Erister in here for the start of first 10 minutes of the game, get an army built up faster, and then you can maybe think, okay, I'm done here. Take him out, put him into the forge, start getting my upgrades. And then take him out of there, put him in the Author's Hall so I get more money so I can get those upgrades. Or put him into here for Lore Masters, or here for more cavalry, or here for siege. You've got the choice. The choice is yours, and that is what I like about a unique mechanic, is that you get the choice to use it, but you are incentivized to use it because of the buffs it gives. The buffs are so valuable. Let's actually see how much it is. Recruitment speed 100% faster. That is double the speed, and that also works with the siege with all recruitment buildings. Recruit speed going up by up to 30% if you buy the military studies, which they actually want you to buy because they reduce their cost by 300 compared to all the others costing 900, although the second tier is still 900. Altogether, I'd say this is a B tier. It doesn't quite reach A because, again, you can kind of go without it. You're not forced to use it, and sometimes you can even forget to use it. And that is where it kind of lies. If you forget to use it, then you're missing out on a little portion of your faction that you do basically need if you want to get the best out of it. Still amazing. It's definitely the top tier of B. It's definitely above Rohan, but it's not quite A tier with Lothlorien. For the Dwarves, you have one very big faction mechanic, and then you have another smaller but still quite valuable mechanic. The first one is quite obvious. You have to choose at the very beginning of the game which faction you want to house. as the dwarves? Do you want to be the aggressive faction of Erebor? Do you want to be the defensive faction of Iron Hills? Or do you want to be the utility faction of Ered Luin? And then, depending on who you choose, all your buildings are the same, but the units you recruit from them are all different. And in each one, you get a different ranged siege unit. You all get the same Demolisher. You all get the Earth Hammer now. Earth Hammer used to be an Erebor exclusive, but they changed that. The Forge makes all the same upgrades, but the Barracks is where you get the main difference. And once it's finished building, you can see here, we have our Guardians, which, depending on which faction, you have either reduced enemy armor, even more defenses, or speed. You get a unit that can either become a melee unit instead of a pike unit, slow down enemies even more with the pikes, or just become an even bigger tank. Have axe throwers that can deal bonus damage against non-armored enemies. Have crossbows that can just stand in melee and not die, or ranged units that are capable of shooting from very far ranges. And obviously, again, also the elite troops, which then also correlates with your travel camp, which periodically spawns ponies, which you can then send together with your elite troop, which for Ered Luin is the Unburnt. After you get the elite equipment, you can then get that to then make a unit of Khazad-dûm veterans. That used to be a different mechanic. It used to be originally you'd put a unit of Guardians in with the ponies, and there's a 50% chance they come back, and there's a 50% chance they won't. So they changed it, so now it is a 100% chance of returning with Khazad-dûm vets. You can put a unit of them into the Dwarven Forge, which will then allow all of your heroes to purchase Mithril Mail. Or you can choose to keep them as a unit, and you can stylize their weapons, and then you can use all their special abilities after that. You can have, I believe, axes, swords, maces, or hammers. Hammers do best against buildings. Maces / Morning Stars, I think, are what they're called, are good against heavy armor. Axes are just good at regular damage, and swords are good against heroes. And then you get a choice of another axe for more damage, or a shield for more armor. So another very unique thing, but half of it you don't really need to use, because you don't really need the Khazad-dûm vets to do anything, really. I typically just get one unit of them, put them into here, get the Mithril Mail for my heroes, and I have even stronger heroes. But you don't need to use it. So that part of the Dwarven faction I normally forget about. But obviously, going back to the main point being, you can get all unique heroes, all unique units, depending on which Dwarven faction you choose. And that is definitely a very interactive choice, because you don't get the choice to do anything until you've made which dwarf faction you want to play. And certain factions work better against each individual enemy. For example, the dwarves of Ered Luin are better against, say for example, Mordor, but the dwarves of Erebor are really bad against Mordor because of the speed difference. That is the main factor as to why Mordor beats Erebor more, because you can't escape from their orc because you've got the similar move speed. But the dwarves of Ered Luin have vastly superior movement speeds, meaning they can run away or chase with less ease. And obviously the Iron Hills, their biggest thing is their defences and the Ram Riders, which are so much fun to use. So all in all, this unique mechanic, but obviously no other faction gets to choose their starting sub-faction or has the ponies. This, I call it a B tier as well. It's so close to being A. It is so close. There's another one that is really good. But obviously, because the reason it's not A is because of the ponies. You don't need to get them. If this was something that any other faction would do, I wouldn't count it in, and it'd be A tier. But just because the ponies are not, they aren't bad, they aren't weak, but they're not necessary. That's their main weakness, is that they're not really necessary to do anything. Okay, for Isengard, their unique mechanic is the Machinery of War. Oh, wait, no it's not, because Lothlorien can improve their military buildings for less, the Dwarves can do it for less, Laundress can do it for less, Yeah, Machinery of War used to be the unique mechanic of Isengard in that all of their military buildings would instantly level up after this was built, researched even, but with an incredibly long cooldown to finish, about the same amount as the settlers and the workers' tools for every faction. Oh yeah, and the Misty Mountains can do it now as well by recruiting heroes. Yeah, Isengard definitely need a new lick of paint. Unfortunately, the only other unique mechanics I can consider rating it are the Orokai being able to reach level 10, apparently getting larger bonuses than regular units upon leveling up, but they're also weak as everything else, and you can also get units straight away level 5 with upgrades where these ones cannot. And then there's also Saruman, who can stand in this tower and then can only use his abilities that he has here unless he gets the Wizard Tower medium power. Yeah, I can't really say anything good about Isengard, I'm sorry. They definitely need a new lick of paint. They've fallen majorly behind on every other faction on uniqueness. I think if the Machinery of War was done faster... I mean, I've managed to monologue for this entire time, and this upgrade is not even finished yet. And then the second tier is 1,500. It's so much money to be wasting on just getting everything leveled up when you typically don't really need it in the first 10 minutes of the game if you just go Wildman and get Wolfgar. You could just go doing anything else better. And then obviously Saruman is better off in the field because otherwise he doesn't gain experience unless you get the Wizard Tower, in which case you can just pop him in there and use all his abilities, which actually have a very limited range, so it's still not really that good. Yeah, I really hope they make some really positive changes for Isengard. Not strong changes that make them overpowered. I just want a change that makes them a bit more unique. So currently I'm ranking them D tier. Probably the only faction I'm going to rank D tier. Because, yeah, Isengard definitely needs something to reinvigorate my love for them. Mordor's unique mechanic is definitely Sauron. All about Sauron and his expansion of power. Everything you do as your faction will, in some way, inadvertently level up Sauron, the Necromancer, in any of his forms. And that gives him new powers. It makes your Nazgul higher level as well. All of the Nazgul and the map of Sauron are tied to the power of Sauron. And every time he levels up, they get stronger and also unlock new abilities. But on top of all of what Sauron gets from doing literally anything from his long to-do list, you can just go recruit a Nazgul, get an outpost, get your late tier powers, recruit some special units. The choices are nearly endless. You can get all of them, and unfortunately you can't get them above level 10, but you can still do it and feel like the completionist that I am and give yourself a pat on the back for doing it. But on top of that, there's also the power, the influence of Sauron, which can be used on nearly every single building. In fact, the only building it can't be used on are the little sentry towers. Every other building in your... and the Citadel now, I guess. The Citadel used to be able to be given the influence of Sauron to allow your Nazgul to get their armour. Then they changed that to be your middle tier power. But anyway, back to the influence of Sauron. Put it on your resource buildings, get more resources. Put it on your recruitment buildings, get upgrades for your troops. Put it on a defensive building, you get put it on this banner, and you can give your men of the east upgrades. Give it to your siege works, you can get a new troll unit with that flings a catapult. Put it onto a Killfungal barracks and you get the halberdiers. Put it onto either of your two outposts. You can get the Dol Guldur or Minas Morgul fortresses, and you can make either the corrupted spirits made by the Nazgul turn into wretched wraiths, or you can get spiders for free. You just get so much choice that you are actually spoilt for choice. This is definitely an A tier unique mechanic. It's what makes Mordor one of my favourite factions. I think without Sauron, I would probably never play Mordor just because of how fun and interactive this is. You can do it in any order, any way you want, and it's going to be good no matter what you do, because you just get to have that little I get to do all these interactions in whatever way you want, and it's just so fun and so obviously too good, perhaps, but it makes Mordor one of the best factions in general. But not everyone knows how to use it, and that I think is the main crux of the unique mechanic. But other than that, perfect mechanic. For the Misty Mountains, their unique mechanic is the tunnel network. And now I don't mean the actual tunnel network that each citadel has as you build it. What I actually mean is the pioneers that appear on the map when you recruit them for 250 can then make a Gundabad or Goblin Town expansion on any point on the map where you have the space for it. And obviously, if you're going Goblin Town, you want some extra space in this semicircle to build extra buildings. And then Gundabad has the free recruitment plots built around the base in these form of banners. Now, what makes this so fun to use is the fact that it is kind of a way of free building, but it's not like full free building like in Age of the Ring or any other vanilla BFME 2, for example. It's locked it's locked buildings, but also they get extremely expensive in the later stage of the game. The first building you build with the Pioneer costs only 250. The second one costs only 1,000, and then the other one after that costs 4,000. So you've got to really be careful with what you build and where you build it, because if you build it in a bad place and you can't get a lot of Goblin Town buildings set up, then you've screwed yourself, and you have to either just say, okay, I'm going to demolish it and try again, or you just got to stick with it and keep going. But from each of these buildings, you also get unique units that bolster your basic army, since obviously without them, you only got the Moria troops, which are garbage. But with this all together, it makes a really fun mechanic. Also, the goblins, their buildings, they're upgraded over time for their resource buildings, but for their recruitment buildings, if you build the chieftain, it improves the Moria buildings. If you get the Great Goblin, it improves the Goblin Town. And if you get the Defiler, it improves the Gundabad buildings. But Bolg, your faction leader, kind of, not including Smaug, Bolg improves the power of all of your recruitment buildings by 1 level everywhere. And it also allows you to recruit banner carriers. So the Misty Mountains are a very compact piece that you have to just learn to get everything put together in place, like a puzzle. You just got to make all the pieces fit in somehow. And with the goblins, you can do it in such a various way. It gives so much choice on what you can do. I'm going to say this is a B tier. Again, very high, very close to A. But it's going to scrape the bottom of B just because on certain maps you are going to struggle being able to expand in certain directions. And on some smaller maps, say for example Tol Morwen, where the area is a oval surrounded by water, where you can't build over, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. But on, I'd say, 80% of maps, you should have no trouble having at least 1 Goblin Town and 1 Gundabad tunnel, which does make for basically all these 3 buildings together make up your castle start or camp start, which depending on where you start on. And lastly, we come to Angmar, and their unique mechanic are the tribute carts, which you grow to love them to start with, but then you grow to hate them because the AI anyone can just attack them and then prevent you from doing anything with them. So what the tribute cart does, for those that don't know, is they can go to any of your recruitment buildings. So that is your Dark Iron Forge, your Temple of Twilight, your Hall of Warriors, your Wolf Tamer's Den, and the White Lair. And upon doing that, your buildings will gain a pretty substantial amount of experience, and you'll gain a bit of money from it. Now, there's 2 different tiers of tribute carts. There are firstly the Outpost tribute carts, which gives you a much bigger version of the basic tribute cart you get from the settlements, which are the Hillman Village, the Barrow-White Lair, and the Orc Village you can get them from. The tribute cart for the Men of Khand Dûm, where you get it from the Outpost, gives about, I'd say, double that of the settlements, which a single settlement tribute cart is enough to level up the Dark Iron Forge to tier 2, if that's an example of that. But I'll also feed this into the Hall of the King's Men to show you how much experience it gives. So it gives 2/3, I'd say that is. So that is again double what the settlement tribute cards give, and they also give a pretty big sum of cash. Now, I believe this to be probably the most difficult to utilize to the full potential, only if you don't notice that they can get focused by your enemy, because they can. The enemy will actually focus them if you don't pay attention. They always try, as soon as they've been spawned now, to run straight towards your citadel to be taken in and give you experience and money. But if, for example, on a castle start, you're stuck in your base and you have no way of getting the gates open because the tribute cards count as builders, they can't go through postern gates. This is something that has... I feel like if they made it that postern gates could be used to get tribute cards through, it would be better on fortress starts. But I'd say this mechanic is better on a camp start, because that way you've always got an open door. The tribute card's always just going to walk in, and you don't have to go for this little narrow choke way that can be easily surrounded by an enemy, and then you get no tribute cards. They constantly die, and then you get stuck at level 1 with everything, and then you lose out on half your faction. It's something that you have to be able to micromanage constantly, because if you don't, you're missing out on extra money, you're missing out on leveling up your buildings, and you lose that early game tempo that Angmar gains by not having to spend money to get your upgrades for your military buildings. You still need to get them for your resource structures, but again, if you're stuck and you can't get tier 3 Dark Iron Forge, then you will never see these upgrades being made, which puts this overall as a C tier. It's not bad, but if you don't pay attention to everything that is going on, if you don't see the supply carts coming in and need to be put in to one of your buildings, then you're missing out. And it can quite often happen. Again, if you are stuck in your base and you have no way of getting out, your building is going to stay at tier 1. Until, I admit, you can go over this by getting the Stronghold of the Iron Crown. But that is your tier 4 power. So even if you want to do this as fast as you can, you need to get a total of 18 power points, or 17 if you don't count the one you start with. You need 17 more power points to be able to get your buildings to level 3 instantly by getting Stronghold of the Iron Crown. So that is why I think of that. And you can see here, we now have a tribute cart coming out from the Hillman village. They come out every, what's the word for it? 4 minutes. That's one, 4 minutes. And then you can see it makes its way towards the base. It normally stops here, but if the gates are closed, it will stop at the gate, and then it can die. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing. It definitely works. I feel like if the postern gates worked with the tribute cards as well, it would be a B tier ranking on a unique mechanic. But because of the fact that they can get locked out the base, it is a C tier for them. And that is all of them. I hope you've all enjoyed my little ranking video here. I hope everyone enjoys my little choices for every faction mechanic and such. And I know I didn't decide to go do anything with Arnor, but that was because Arnor is a faction that doesn't have anything unique to them anymore. The unique thing for them used to be they had the elves, but now those elves exist in Laundress. They're no longer classified as unique. And the only unique thing I have to say about it is actually something that comes from Gondor. So I probably could have done that in the Gondor unique mechanic. But anyway, that's everything. See ya.